Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get practical guidance for not only navigating, but thriving with the cosmic tides. My name's Amanda Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and I am here with your favorite weather woman, predictive astrologer, Ann Ortelee. And we're just so happy that all of you are here. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for tuning in every week and sharing the podcast with your friends. I love hearing stories about, hey, so-and-so turned me on and said that I need to listen to this podcast, and that's why I'm here. And that just makes me so happy. So thanks to all of you who have referred the podcast, and welcome to all of you who have been referred and you're here listening for the first time. So, Anne, let's start with the intensity scale. What are we looking at this week?
Well, the energy of the week is actually really fun. But again, we still have that range of the 20 to 200. So you're going to have to figure out.
You changed it. It was 2 to 200. You just said 20 to 200.
Yeah, 20 to 200. Yeah. So it's definitely a little on the intense side. Couple reasons. We have Mercury stationing. We have the sun going into a new sign, Pisces. We also have a Uranus Saturn square. So that's our first of three. So it's very intense. That's an intense energy. And it's going to be somewhere in your chart. If you have planets at 7, it's going to link up to them because it's at 7. So with Uranus and Saturn, that's a structure change. And so people are really feeling structure change. Today, the moon's in Aries. So I just came from a meeting where people were arguing. I came in to get my Zoom link with you, and then I got an email from someone furious with me about my weekly weather, this long thing, and I'm like, all right, so just don't listen, like go away. What can I say? You want to fight with me? I don't want to fight with you. But Venus and Mars have a fight this week, so we're fighting for what we want, right? And I actually thought it was a good story I told, and I got yelled at for it. So, everybody's got their little feisty up this week. And with Mercury stopping, right, because he stops on the 20th, and then there's a lot of Mercury-Jupiter energy, so everybody's feeling their story. And then there's a Venus-Mars fight, and then there's a Uranus-Saturn fight. So it's a fighting energy, but it's clarifying. So you have to go, okay, I get it, so don't listen. Like nobody made you listen. Nobody made, and we want to, you don't want to be necessarily dismissive, but you also recognize people are in the mood to argue, fight, and go in. That said, all the moons have good closing aspects this week. So that part's nice. The moon in Aries that we have today on President's Day is the closing aspect is a sextile to the sun in Aquarius. Then the moon goes into Taurus. Mardi Gras is tomorrow, and Ash Wednesday for Lent is Thursday. And then the closing aspect for the Taurus moon is a trine to Pluto on Thursday. And then the Gemini moon happens. And in the Gemini moon, Mercury stations and goes direct. And the closing moon for the Gemini is a trine to Venus. In moon in Gemini, trine Venus and Aquarius. So it's good closing aspects with kind of energy. So you got to kind of go, well, all right, am I going to get mad about and hold on to it? Or am I going to get mad about it and go, okay, maybe I lost the battle, but I'll win the war. Or I understand this might be a strategic setback because it's retrograde and we're looking at it in a new way and we're understanding it. But then we're going to have a whole different perspective. Remember, and this is the first of 3 Uranus-Saturn squares. So we're going to have a whole different perspective by the time we get to December. And Mercury's retrograde. So the news you've been getting is not necessarily true, or you're being asked to look at it. This is the second of 3 passes. And then Mercury's going to go through it again. And I remember Mercury's in Aquarius. So he's like, well, you say that, I say this. And what's the truth? And so that's Mercury in Aquarius is very detached from the story. So it's important to the extent you can detach and go, okay, that happened. Let me figure out what I want to do about it personally and how I want to handle it. And that I think is really more the deal, So what are you going to do? It's that kind of week. So I'm going to say 20 to 200, but it also is, it's got a lot of turbulence, but it's got good happy endings. So when there's turbulence and there's a happy ending, you go, all right, we had a little turbulence, but we worked out stuff. And then we work it out, and then we go, all right, a little turbulence, and how do I feel about it? And then the sun goes into Pisces. So remember, the whole sky is still answering to Saturn and Aquarius, because when the sun goes into Pisces, he's going to answer to Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Aquarius answering to Saturn, and Saturn answers to himself. So Saturn still runs the heavens while we're in Pisces. So we've got that story for a while. Yeah. And it's okay. That's part of the deal. You know, the charts are all about the structures, the consequences, how we're going to work with the consequences of our choices. We all make them. And then we make a consequential choice. These are times of consequence, and the universe is giving us an opportunity to revisit how we want to do it. But then it also is an opportunity to look at it and say, okay, you know, what are the choices we have? So it's a juicy week, and depending on how attached you are, and remember, the sky is encouraging you with Saturn and Aquarius to stand back, look at the big picture, because Aquarius is a view at 20,000 feet. So we have this huge storm. Earlier, a few minutes ago, we were talking to Jamie in Tennessee, and she goes, we have your weather. I'm like, I know, we get the weather tomorrow. And of course, Oregon had it a couple days ago. So we're all getting the weather, right? We're all getting and you look at the map of the country, and it's like, everybody's getting a storm. Well, Neptune's opposite Vesta. So there's lots of water in the sky, ice, frozen water. And of course, Aquarius is a sign of frozen. It's a fixed air sign. So the air is fixed and cold. It's good. It's all good for us. And our job with this is to go, and of course, Aquarius is accidents. So that whole Uranus Saturn square, you know, we had a couple, like 100 people, I think, you know, tractor trail, you watch those tractor trailer trucks go off in the ice. So Uranus Saturn is a lot of accident energy. And that is, that's through the Uranus Saturn aspect happens on the 17th on Ash Wednesday. So
why is it accidents?
Uranus is accidents.
Because it's the like sudden, shocking kind of
yeah. Well,
energy.
Uranus, you know, remember he got his balls cut off by his father, right? And thrown into the ocean. So it involves feathering, chops, accidents, and changes to structure. So it's a sudden, unexpected change to the structure. So you're driving in your tractor trailer truck, and suddenly you're off, right? Yeah. So it is the planet of chaos and change. There are some astrologers who think Uranus should be renamed Prometheus because he's a lightning bolt. He helps you see things, and he's a little shocking sometimes when you have a Uranus transit. You remember Rick told the story in the year-end thing about having the lightning bolt hit him when he was on his roller skates or whatever. Yeah. That's Uranus is electricity, and it's like shocking. You know, it's like, oh my God. So it's meeting up with Saturn, who says, but Saturn is going to win because he rules the sky right now, and Uranus is in Taurus answering to Venus, who answers to Saturn. So Saturn's the boss. The structure is going to win over the chaos Uranus brings, but that's, you know, we have 3 passes of it. So yeah.
Whoa. Okay. That what you just said is really interesting. So the first Saturn Uranus square, Saturn is what all the planets are speaking to or answering to, right? Because of the configuration right now. And so Saturn will quote unquote win.
Yes.
So whatever way you look at Saturn, I mean, that could be like the old and the established, right? That could be the quote unquote patriarchy, or the, you know,
or the structures in your life.
Structures in your life. Okay. But when we have the second and the third pass of Saturn Uranus square, will the same configuration be the case where everything's answering to Saturn?
We're going to look and see what Venus is doing when that happens.
Okay.
Uranus,
so we don't know.
I haven't looked at it from that point, but Uranus is in Taurus. It's not a sign he likes generally, because he's kind of earthquakes and explosions, and he wants to explode in the air, not necessarily in the ground. Right. So if you remember the atomic bomb, when they blew it up the first time, they blew it up in the ground, Uranus and Taurus. So right now, Uranus is in Taurus for 8 years, right? He's been in there since March of 19, and he had a little dance in there in this May of 18. But he's in Taurus. He doesn't like being in Taurus because he likes to run around. He's grounded, and he's trying to explode things, but he's grounded. But Saturn's in Aquarius, which is, okay, what's the bigger vision for the group? We have 3 squares. Technically, usually when the squares happen, the outer planet, in this case, it would be Uranus, wins because he's slower moving than Saturn. But Saturn's in a closing psychological integration with Uranus, right? So he's in what we call a closing square, which is psychological integration. And he looks and he says, okay, go ahead and blow it up. What are you going to replace it with? And Uranus doesn't have an answer. He just wants to blow stuff up. So this time Saturn wins. This particular square, Saturn wins.
Okay.
And so we're going to have 2 more. We'll have one in June, around June 14th, on the eclipses. So that one will be big. And then we'll have another one December 24th. And then we finish with those and we say, okay, how did you change your life? So remember, Saturn just met up with Jupiter. Jupiter's rolled off. Saturn's kind of, he's a little bit slow moving. Most Aquarians don't walk fast. They kind of lumber along, right? And Uranus is coming along and waking him up. Or Saturn's actually coming into Uranus, and Uranus kind of surprises him. But they have a conversation this week. But it's a retrograde conversation. They say, do you remember when? And they go, yeah, I do remember when. I remember that. And then they have this dialogue. But this is the first of 3. So we always know that when we have one of those 3Bs, there's part 1, part 2, part 3. So this is the first big planet that Saturn's run into. Now, when they met up in 88, 45, the Saturn-Uranus cycle is a 45-year cycle. They met up in 88 and they started the story. That was in Capricorn, 88, 89. And then they met in 99, 2000. Now that was the dot-com collapse. So this is part of why people are saying financial markets could collapse, because 99, 2000 was the dot-com collapse. But that was their opening square. So I'm going to say, go back and look at 99, spring of 2000, what was going on then. And then in 2000, you said, this is what I'm committing to. And of course, Uranus Saturn 99 was Y2K. All the computers are going to crash. The planes are going to fall from the sky. And then it happened and everybody went, nothing happened. And I'm like, it's because all of us IT people worked for 3 years to make sure it didn't all crash. It wasn't like, because, back then storage was expensive and you'd leave the 19 off. So you're going to go to 20, take the 19, 50 minus 70, it worked. But when you go to 2000 and it's 1 minus 70, you get a bad math, no interest, all your interest. I mean, we worked for years. So there wasn't anything bad happening on Y2K. That said, that change happened and it got everybody like, oh, and then we all put down roots for 2000 and we grew. Now this time we blew up our lives and we had the conjunction in December, but it's kind of like the Jupiter Saturn, but it's kind of like everybody went, oh, wow, ready. But I've been so busy with this virus and my life changing. I don't know what I want. And so now Saturn and Uranus go, okay, well, we did this in 99 and you put your life down in 2000 for 20 years. And now we'll do it again, but we'll do it this year because we're in a new sign. We'll give you the feel. You get to think about what it is you want to create, psychologically integrate all you've done in your life so far. What does it look like? And so that's the energy of the 3 conjunctions we have this year. But this first one says, look back, retrograde Mercury, look back at what went on. And based on that and where you are now, what do you want to do going forward? Which is the June and the December one.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes. And so would you say that this is the karmic aspect of Saturn is really illuminated right now? This like looking back, but also looking forward. I'm right, because we're sowing the seeds right now for our future karma. But looking back, this retrograde period might be about looking at the patterns of the past and how they've gotten you right here. Right. Okay. So that's the emphasis right now. And then if you want to rewrite those, it would be paying attention to what they are and then start making different choices.
Yes. And then you have a year to do it.
And you have a year to do it. Awesome. What about Athena? What's
Athena's in there too. She's in there. She's got her pitch. They're all in there. They're all in Aquarius. So the whole gang is in there. And of course, Athena is justice. She sits on the top of the Capitol building. She rules Athens. She was the warrior that sprung from her father's head. She's a strategic visionary. So she looks at the strategic visionary of it and she went, okay, that's what it is. And so there's an energy here of being a strategic visionary in your own life. Because Athena is saying, what's your vision? What do you want it to be? And we all have to go, that's my vision. And, it's, back to the AA rooms, we want a different behavior. You got to change. You want a different outcome. You got to change your behavior. And you do. And that's okay. That's part of, you don't have to. But remember, Saturn in Capricorn is the results of your actions. And Saturn in Aquarius is, because both Saturn rules both Capricorn, what you build, and Aquarius, what its service is to the greater community. Because the idea is you do stuff for yourself, but what you're really doing is you're doing stuff also for the community when you do it for yourself, whatever that is. So your job is to go, okay, I'm doing it for the community, and that's good. And then now that we have this change in energy, we're shifting, right? So that's the important part. Is the Aquarian vision is, well, if you're going to change it, what are you going to change it to? And that's the part, like in my case, I just had my 4th month without pasta, right? So Lent is this week. So I'm like, all right, so now we're going to go to the next level. We're going to get rid of the white foods, the potatoes. Ooh. Yeah. We're going a little more, another level. Yeah. 40 days, man, and, it's understanding like what's the, and of course you can add things too. You don't have to give up for Lent. Lent is, you can, that when we were kids, my dad would give us a family Lent and then we had to do our own. So our family Lent one year was everybody had to go to church every day. So when it got to Sunday, I'm like, I'm not going twice. I already went once. My father and I had this huge fight, right? I'm like 16, that obnoxious age. And I'm like, I went already. I'm not going 2 times to church on Sunday. You can't make me. I'm not getting in the car. So, so you can do things for Lent as well as give things up, right? So my do thing is to go walk every day. And my give up thing is the whites, giving up the whites. Yeah. And I got earrings on, we're trying to up our image here. So yeah, so you change what you're doing with the idea being, okay, what's the change I need to make to get where I want to go or where I think I want to go? And a lot of people are having that conversation. They're like, well, this is where I am. Now what next? And what does that change look like? And that's really important. So.
Okay. So this is so much here.
It's a real, like I said, that's why I started with 20.
Right. Exactly. Okay. A couple more questions.
Yeah.
You said Mercury isn't, Mercury, Jupiter, something about Mercury and Jupiter together?
Yes. Mercury's retrograde. So he's stationing at 11, which is the degree of Jupiter.
Got it. Okay. And you said that this would make us feeling our story?
Yes. Well, Jupiter is Jupiter is how we relate to the outside world. And Mercury, he's okay with being in Aquarius. He likes it. He gets to fly around again. He's not grounded. So Mercury, Jupiter. So I had somebody, write, 3 of my exes have contacted me. And I'm like, well, Jupiter, it's a lot of, not just 1 ex. You got 3 ghosts contacted. Like, what are you going to do? You want to talk to him or not? Right. And that's the energy of a lot of.
And do you think that they come back because there's something unresolved there that we want to tie up? And maybe not, that doesn't necessarily mean physically, like we're going to go talk to them. Maybe but it's more something psychological or some loose end that we're needing to address in ourselves. Yeah. Okay.
And that's right. Okay. Because it doesn't mean you have to talk to them. I say that, to somebody. You don't really want to talk to them, you don't. But if they contact you, at least think about the relationship. Like, because it's come back knocked on your door and said, I want to talk to you. And so it's always helpful when that happens to go, well, I don't know that I want to talk to you, but then it gets you thinking about them. Right. And Mercury retrograde is we revisit, revise, rethink. Sometimes we want to say something, to somebody, back to the AA analogy, make amends, but sometimes you can't really call them up and make amends. But you can do it on your individual level, or you can just go, no, but the energy is there for you to look at it and react as you choose.
And you said that there's a lot of closing aspects. And one of the things I've been really mindful of in the last, I don't know how many years, but is getting better at closing things, is getting better at endings, really. And so even yesterday, I had an opportunity with my daughter's old teacher from her school. They're leaving the island. And so they did this little like drive-by goodbye party thing, which is the thing, like the drive-by birthday party and the drive-by. And so it felt so good to have this opportunity to have real closure, Madeline was able to give him a card and that closing. So it sounds like that's a lot of the theme of this Mercury retrograde period is closing certain things.
Yeah.
And that's making space for something new, right?
Yeah, well, it's a closing square. And obviously he was an important teacher to her. Saturn, Uranus, he's leaving.
Yes.
She's not going to see him again.
Right.
And so there's a, oh, you're leaving. And what you meant to me, Yeah.
Anne, when everything started happening around this time last year, I remember having a very distinct conversation with him in particular. And he said, things may never go back to, things may be changed permanently, but we can just be really grateful for the time that we had together. And remember, this was so early on. It felt like such a dramatic thing to say, like, really? Like, this could be it? But there was so much truth in what he was saying, and him bringing in, like, just let's be grateful for the precious times that we had. It's like, yeah, it really was precious, and it really is changing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. A couple other questions. You said that Venus and Mars are fighting. Why?
Because they're having a square.
Okay.
Yeah. So Venus squares Mars on the 19th at 23 Aquarius, 23 Taurus. So Mars is 23 Taurus and Venus comes in and she squares him. So they're having a fight.
And who wins that fight, quote unquote? Venus does?
Well,
because
Mars is
the one coming in?
No, Mars is in Taurus, so he's answering to Venus.
Oh.
And Venus is in Aquarius. Mars is in its detriment in Taurus. Doesn't like being in Taurus. Venus is like, because she's in air. You ever fought with someone who doesn't stop talking? And they just go, or they go, I'm not going to talk about this. And you're like, what do you mean you're not going to? We're never going to discuss this again. Very Aquarian being, we're not talking about this. I'm cutting it off. So Venus wins that one.
Okay. And Venus could also be our.
Now, that doesn't mean that you could be the guy, or you could be a man with a Venus that wins. But there's a struggle. Venus wins that argument. Yes.
But so Venus could be seen as our values, like our values actually win the struggle.
Well, because Venus turns to Saturn and goes, can you believe they did that? And Saturn goes, no worries, girl, I got your back. Because she and Saturn are, they're in the same sign. Mars is the outlier right now. He's the one over there doing stuff. So she looks at him, can you believe he did that? And Saturn goes, I know. What are you going to do? He's such a hothead. So, it's that kind, she's got backing. She's hanging out with she's at the party hanging out with her friends, all the Aquarian folk. So she's happy. Mars is like picking a fight.
Okay. And one more question, I think. I mean, you know how that goes.
As many as you have. Keep
funneling. How much longer will Saturn be running the celestial story we have going on right now?
He will run it for a while longer. At least, most of the planets are reporting to him for another 30. They all have to get out of Pisces before they're done talking to him, and then they'll shift. Yeah.
And then, do you know?
I mean, Venus right now, Venus runs Mars and Mercury, Venus, Mercury, they're all in Aquarius. So they're all answering to Saturn. When they go into Pisces, they're answering to Jupiter. Jupiter's answering to Saturn. Once they get into Aries, there can be a shift,
Okay.
but it's, yeah.
And I just want to say, for those of you that listen to this and go, what are they talking about? Answering to who? And how do you even figure that out? I just want to assure you that it's a little bit complicated. Just trust what Anne's saying. But it's this whole dispositor tree thing,
Right.
which when we did our Decode Your Cosmic Blueprint course with Donna Woodwell, it was like week 5, I think, when she taught dispositor trees. And that's where people just went, oh my God, this is so complicated. I don't even know what it was really hard for people. So it's okay if you don't totally get it. It's one of those things that will start to make sense with a little bit more time.
Yeah. What I always say to people when they go like big eyes, I go, well, this is how astrology describes everything in the sky, because every planet has a sign it likes, or maybe a couple sign it likes. They also have a sign they're really exalted in. They also have signs that they don't like, and they have signs they're in fall in, right? And fall means really bad. So you look at them, and then there's like just regular planets roaming around. So the idea of it is you look at the planet and you see what kind of condition it's in, meaning what sign it's in. And then if it's in a sign that's not its ruler, it reports into somebody else. It has a boss. So right now, all the planets in the sky are answering to Saturn, and that's not normal. Usually it's like a cocktail party. They're talking here, but this is like the whole party knows the whole story. They're all in the family. And so then what do they do with the story? Because everybody's in the same story. So we're all in the story of figuring out the structure of our lives based on our previous choices. And so when you look, like if the planet's in its own sign, it doesn't have to ask a question. So when Venus and Mars right now are having a fight, Mars is fighting with Venus, but she's his boss. So she just goes, because she's in Aquarius, she's fast talking, and Mars just sits there like this because he's in Taurus and he doesn't talk so fast. He grunts, right? But Venus also is answering to Saturn because she's in Aquarius, and that's Saturn. And Saturn's like, don't worry, girl, got your back, right? So, it's right before the show. Like I kind of think, oh, what am I listening to? So I turned on Helpless by Hamilton, where she sings Helpless. And then there's a scene in the song where the Hamilton character, Lin-Manuel Miranda, says, look, I'm an orphan. I have no money. I got a couple college credits, but I got a smart brain. Right. And he's Mars and Taurus. And she's like talking to her sister, introduced him, and we were hanging at a party with the rebels. And I'm like, oh, it's a helpless day. Helpless. And then when you get to know her during the play, she's really not. But I love that song, right? So I was listening to it and singing as I was doing my emails. So that energy where he's kind of like, I'm a little poor guy, but your father just said we could get married and we'll get a little house in Harlem and we'll see what happens, and he went on to found the country, right? So it's that kind of energy, right? So so what we do is we look at the chart and we go, oh, that planet's happy, that planet, they have a problem. Ooh, they're fighting with that planet. Kind of like The Office, or like, your family or your group of friends, like who's doing what with whom. And now they're all, Saturn's the boss, and they're all sitting listening to him and going, okay. And then Mars is over here. He's not in Aquarius, but Uranus is over there. He's not in Aquarius, but they're in Taurus, so they're still reporting into Saturn, even if they're rebelling, right? So yeah,
right, okay, because they're
in a square,
right?
So they're in a square to Saturn. Okay. Well, they're Taurus squares Aquarius, right? So
right, yeah, okay. So it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity this week for us to catch ourselves in those old patterns, in those old like knee-jerk reactions, start to choose different things. I want to bring up that audio book again, Practicing Peace in Times of War, by Pema Chodron. I'm re-listening to it again, and there's so much like very relevant juiciness for us right now.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things she said is it's never too late in the chain reaction to catch the fact that you're hooked. So you know how we get hooked, we get triggered. And she's just saying it's never too late wherever you realize, oh, I'm hooked, to pause and choose a different reaction than the one that you normally would.
Totally.
And then the other thing she said that I love, because it sounds like there could be a lot of this happening for us. And this was a quote she gave by Rudolph Bayou. When an old culture is dying, the new culture is created by those people who are not afraid to be insecure.
Mm-hmm.
So that feeling of insecurity we get when we don't know, when things are not clear, when we're triggered, being okay, being in that place and not doing that knee-jerk thing where we're trying to find comfort in our old reactions. You know, it's like, oh, you know, someone says something to me and I just go into this, you know, I fly off the handle, or I retreat, or I do whatever I always do. She's just, the quote is just saying, if we're okay just being insecure, not knowing, not feeling like we have to resolve something right away, that's how we can actually create something entirely new, a whole new culture for ourselves.
Well, and it's understanding what that is, because that's what the sky is asking us to do. Jupiter, Saturn, it's saying, okay, we're starting a new 20-year cycle. What is your vision? Because it's an air sign. What is your vision of what you want to create? And you and I have talked, you know, what my vision May of 2000 was. I want to go be an astrologer, leave corporate behind. You were saying, yeah, I had no idea back in May of 2000 where you would be 20 years later. So we're at that kind of monumental turning point where we have an opportunity to go, okay, where do I want to be in 20 years? What does that look like? And so, but to figure out where you want to be, you have to know where you are, and you have to know how you got there. So this is the how I got here. And then to get to there, what do I have to do? Or maybe I don't want to go there. Maybe I go, no, I don't want to go there. Or we go, well, that would be maybe fun. You know,
so and you're wearing your pretty earrings
wearing my earrings, yes.
So does that mean in 20 years you're going to be in Florida?
Well, I mean, I've always loved this place in Florida. So when I got asked last year and I wasn't quite 100% sure, what I did was I watched and I was like, so I just kept looking at the realtor listing, you know, because my dad bought the place there 40 years ago in 1979. Which is when I moved into this apartment I'm living in now in 1979. So I've lived here, you know, 40, whatever many years, almost 42 years. So like, I never really thought of Florida, you know, and I'm kind of a New Yorker, but I'm also, you know, there's no tax in Florida, you know, there's points to it, but I have friends, you know, and so it's like it's one of those, you know, maybe not, maybe not, but the place was gorgeous. And for those of you who wrote and said, where at St. Petersburg, but it also was, you know, and I'm a Virgo, we change slowly. You know, I wade into swimming pools. I don't jump, you know, so I'm wading in, but I was like, I'm going to have to glam up a little. It's an aspirational apartment, you know.
It's so
this morning I thought I'm going to put on my bigger earrings, you know, and kind of glam up. As opposed to schlubby Ann at the bright red desk doing astrology, you know, not that, you know, I have a friend and we joke. She was my roommate in this apartment. And she goes, yeah, you know, you knew me when we were schlubby when I got a TV, and we both looked at each other and went, should we go to bed now? Like, where are the parents telling us to go to bed? 1980, you know, like we had a TV, you know, like, and yeah, so it's all good. It's understanding. We grow and we shift, you know, direction when we change. So that's what this is all about. Where are you changing towards? Where have you been? And what do you want to do now? You know, what's your vision of what's next? So that's the energy.
And have you done your astrocartography for Florida?
Oh, I know. I have great astrocartography for that. Yeah.
I'm seeing it. I think it's going to be amazing. And by the way, you have tons of friends in Florida already.
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
comments from last week. People were like, come
Mm.
please, Anne,
Come to Florida, come to
Yes.
Florida. Yeah. Yeah, and it is, and I love that St. Petersburg area. It's a West Coast. You fly into the Tampa airport, but I've been going there since 1979 when my folks bought the place down there. So
Wow.
I didn't buy his place, but I kind of I could live here. I've always felt that way. It's a very magical place. I just love the Gulf Coast. I mean, no offense to the Atlantic Ocean folk, but I had a realtor client who lived in Florida, and she goes, sunrise, sunset. I said, oh, sunset. I mean, I don't get up till 11. She goes, then you want the West Coast. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then so it's like, it's because it is the West Coast. So it's all good.
Every geographical move that I've made has resulted in massive transformation. Like you become and I love to think of it as the different points on the planet really activating different parts within us. So when you move to different places, you feel different, you attract
different. Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't be doing Astrology Hub right now if I hadn't left New York and moved to Hawaii. So who knows what's on the tail end of you moving to Florida.
I know.
It'd be really interesting.
It could be it's a whole, and I think, one of the kinds of astrology is where you relocate. I was doing that with a client the other day. We were kind of looking at different places, and I'm always like, I use the example of David Hasselhoff. He's the Baywatch guy in a red bathing suit, kind of party boy, but he goes to Germany and he's a famous singer. So, where you live on Earth really affects who you are,
Yes.
So,
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So we have this week, in summary, a 20 to a 200, which I mean, you do realize that the scale is 1 to 10, but
well,
okay.
it's up there. It's a little, we're starting at 20. We're not starting at 0. We're starting at 20, but you don't have to your point, you can decide how you want to react to it. Right. Or not. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Maybe listening to that audio would be a good idea this week. It might help you make different choices than you would otherwise.
Well, and it's also, stimulus response. Like you have your chart, you always are going to react the way you react, but you have that moment when you're stimulated, you have the opportunity to pause and decide how you want to react. That's the beauty of it. Right.
And the thing that she said in it that I just heard that I loved, because we love astrology, is she was talking about how when you have that trigger, one practice that she recommends is going out and looking at the sky. She said, just go and look at the sky, because that's space. Like, look at the space, and space permeates all things. And if you do that, then you have an opportunity to create something fresh and totally new. And I went, oh, yes, that's astrology at work right there. Just go be with the sky, choose something different. Okay, so we have a Mercury station. We have the sun. Well, and Mercury stationing would mean that we're feeling that Mercury even more, right? Because when it's stopped, it's even more present.
Important news.
Important news.
Well, when he stops, he's, like, remember that commercial when they say, whoever, everybody listens, and they all freeze. Remember you've ever seen the mob freeze, in Grand Central, where they all freeze and everybody kind of like, what, so when a planet stops, it's the same thing. Everybody's like, what, did they just all stop? Yeah.
Okay. We have the sun moving into Pisces. We have anything at 7 degrees in your chart being activated this week
by that square,
by the Saturn Uranus square. So look for planets at 7 degrees, and those are the planets that are going to be feeling this tension, the square energy between Saturn and Jupiter. Yeah. We have all closing aspects. So, or not all
aspects, the closing aspects of the moon are all nice.
Oh, okay.
Which means, what we look at is what's the last aspect the moon makes, and that describes the outcome of things. So if you have a big fight with someone, it's going to have a nice outcome. It doesn't mean, oh, we're having this fight and we're never going to talk again. It means, it's going to turn out okay.
Okay. You are recommending that we detach from stories as much as possible.
Well, because it's air sign, kind of look back and think what other stories are there? What else isn't there? Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. And then any turbulence that we might have this week, like you were just saying, there's a happy ending to that. There's a happy closing to that turbulence. how will we work with?
I'm going to say ultimately, not you might.
Ultimately, maybe not immediately.
Not be happy with the moment, but ultimately you'll be happy with it. Yes.
Okay. You are saying to stand back, look at the big picture, and really integrate our past into the present as we're looking towards the future. Be strategic, be a strategic visionary in your own life. And that's a message from Athena. Strategic feels also Saturnian, and visionary feels Aquarian. So it's sort of that Athena energy matching with that.
And she's in Aquarius, so she's talking to Saturn. So she's looking at justice. Right? So, yeah.
Okay. So really taking time to think about what's the change that you want to get where you want to go.
Right.
And what if people are unclear where they want to go?
Then know where you don't want to go. Because a lot of times you go, I don't want to go there. And then you go, what do I want to do instead? Right. Like, you don't want to do that. I'm sorry, I don't want to do that. Would you like to do something else? Maybe, maybe not. Don't know yet. Or yeah, I'd like to do that instead. And then go do that. Nice. It's Aquarian. Aquarian has an element of, I don't know. No, don't want to do that. But it also has an element of within that choice, there's a choice there. Well, if you don't want to do that, what would you like to do? And if you know anybody Aquarian, if you say anything to them, they're always like, they go, no. That's kind of, Aquarian children, they're very known for, no, I don't want to do that. And, like, well, you could do this or this. And they're like, maybe that. It's about, if it's a no, then what would the yes be? And you may say, I don't know what yes is. I know it's not that. Then let's wait, because we got three squares. This is the first. So.
Okay. And this is going to be opening up also a theme or a storyline that we are going to be working with all year with those 3 squares, right? Because this is the first one.
This is the first one. Right?
Okay. All right. So pay attention to what's coming up in your life.
3,
yep.
1 for the money. We're down. Got 2 in June. Got 3 in
December, right?
December 20th.
The last one. Yeah.
Christmas.
Yay! Christmas present.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Anne. You are amazing. Thank you so much for coming here every week and sharing your wisdom with this community. We are so very grateful for you. And really, everyone's cheering you on, which is so fun to see. Whatever decision you make, there's a lot of support.
It's the wide-eyed girl, like, ooh, should I do that? Should I really? Yeah. But I have figured out the money. The insurance. I have to get a car. All these things I don't have.
Right.
I don't have a car. I live in New York. We have public transportation. I had a car the 3 years I worked at Pepsi. And then got rid of it.
Oh yeah, I remember when I was in New York, I had to pay $500 a month just to park my car.
Right.
Oh, yes. Thankfully, the company paid for that.
That's not counting the insurance and the car payment, right? So,
right. Exactly. Yeah. But again, it's these shifts in geography. It's not always necessary to really shake things up, but it does. It will. It's inevitable that it will really just shift the way that not that the way you're seeing the world right now is not amazing and perfect.
No, but it'll change. It opens you up to new options, new ideas. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think that's really what this invitation, think of it as an invitation from the planets. So it's like a lot of people are thinking, well, I've done this and this is great. And, what do I want to do next? And that's really what the planets are asking you. What do you want to do next? And of course, to do something new, a lot of times, if you live a reasonably full life, you'll let go of something, or you'll shift your relationship to it to do the new thing. Or that thing will leave, like your daughter's teacher. So she's not going to be able to go to school and see him, like if he was still in the school, right? So, but he doesn't mean she loses the memory of him, but the day-to-day presence changes, but it doesn't make it go away. Mm-hmm. It just changes it. Yeah.
And a lot of people are considering moving right now. I know that people are
big migration aspect.
Migrating. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How interesting how that will change the balance of this country and the world. As people make those big migratory shifts, then there's end results or consequences of that too. So this is all very
and
fascinating.
the last time Uranus was in Taurus was the Dust Bowl. Taurus is Earth, dust, lots of, and there were food shortages, and it resulted in the migration of people from the country to the city for work. So now with everybody being able to, not everybody, but a lot of people working from home, they don't have to live in the city anymore. They can continue their job wherever they want. So then it says, well, where do you want to live if you can continue to work on your computer? Right. So that shift is kind of the reverse of, oh, we don't have to stay in the city. We can go somewhere else.
Yes.
So it's an interesting, migration time. Uranus and Taurus is what's my foundation, what's my home? It's an earth sign. So where do I physically live? Oh, Uranus, change that? Do you want to change? And, changing, in my case, Taurus is food, changing, the pasta, so astrology works on so many levels, but people are really feeling that need for change, like a restlessness, that they need to shift it. And so this week is very illuminative because Mercury stops right near at 11, right on Jupiter, hanging out near the square at 7. They're with only 4 degrees apart. So there's kind of a little energy in that bubble. And you have to go, oh, okay, I'm being encouraged to think about things in a different way and see things from a different perspective,
All right. Well, we certainly live in interesting times, and I'm so grateful that you're here every week to continue shedding light on what is happening and what the invitation from the planets and the stars is, so we can make informed choices and really meet the energy with as much awareness as possible. So thank you for that, Anne. And for those of you who would like some more insights, if you haven't signed up for our horoscope, our weekly horoscope that Christopher Renstrom does for us, I highly recommend that you do that. It's free. You can go to astrologyhub.com/horoscope. Every Sunday, you'll receive your personalized by sign written horoscope. And then he's also now doing a short little introductory video about the energy for the week. So that is a really great thing to receive on Sundays. And then you can join us here on Mondays with Anne. I've found that especially in quote unquote interesting times, it's almost like we can't have enough input of how to really work with it productively. So I'm so grateful to you, Anne, to all of our amazing guiding astrologers for keeping us all illuminated with this language of light, which is really what it is. It's a language of light. It's a language of the stars. So thank you. And thanks to all of you for being here and for your interest and for showing up and for your great questions and for all your enthusiasm. And like I said in the beginning, for sharing this show with your friends, your family, and those who you think could benefit from it. Really, really appreciate all of you. Have a beautiful week. We will see you same time next week. Thanks for being a part of our community. And thank you as always for making astrology a part of your life. We'll catch you on the next episode.